combating skill gaps and maximising student success with NWEA MAP Growth and Edmentum's Exactpath. It's going to be a really good discussion, and I'm delighted and excited to say that I'm joined by 4 schools across the Middle East, and they have generously given up their time to share with you their story and have an open discussion about the successes and challenges that they have experienced when implementing digital learning. So today I am joined by Sarah Hernandez, the elementary principal of Dubai Schools Barsha, Nina Stranger, Vice Principal from School of Modern Skills Dubai, Abderrahim Atbara, Curriculum Coordinator at Kuwait American School, Kuwait, and Lee Debeja, the Principal of Summit School, International School, Abu Dhabi. Before I hand over to the panel to introduce themselves and their school, I'd like to invite our attendees listening to join in the discussion, either using the chat feature or by asking a question in the Q&A box. So please do say hello, let us know where you're joining from today through the chat feature, but also make comments and ask those questions in the Q&A. So I'd like to hand over now to the panel to introduce themselves and the school and how long you've been partnering with Mentum for. Let's start with Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Like Gareth was saying, I'm the elementary principal at Dubai Schools Al Barsha. I've actually been working with Edmentum for about 4 or 5 years now. We use it every single day. We're not a textbook school, so it's been really pivotal in supporting, kind of driving our curriculum forward. We use it a lot for differentiation. We've got quite big attainment gaps, so it's been really supportive in that element. And also, my school's predominantly Emirati, and it's been really key for EAL students because it's such a student-friendly platform.
Thanks, Sarah. And Lee?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lee. I am the principal at Summit International School in Abu Dhabi. We have been with Exactpath for a little over 3 years now, and we use it to connect our ELL learners to where their MAP scores place them on the mountain, as we call it. And so we use Exactpath to support students who are below grade level and to support students who are above it. And we use our live teachers in the classroom to teach grade level as the grade level experts. So we use it to kind of manage the students' gaps, whether they be below or whether they be above. And it's worked fantastically for us thus far.
Thanks, Lee. And Nina?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Stanger from School of Modern Skills in Dubai. We've been partnering with Edmentum for 3 years now. We implemented it as a way of supporting our MAP growth and ensuring our students had access to all the material they need in order to achieve success. One of the best things for our school about Edmentum so far has been the support we get from the team. So when implementing it, you know, having somebody that you can go to for help, for training, to make sure we get it on board. And also the learning path feature, which Lee's already mentioned and, you know, Sarah's spoken about as well, that targets up individual students and supports them to fill their gaps. Thanks.
Thanks, Nina. And finally, Abderrahim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abderrahim Atbara. I'm the curriculum coordinator at Kuwait American School in Kuwait. We have been partnering with Edmentum for 2 years now, but we started with the Exactpath for 1 term before the COVID-19 hit. And then we went for over 18 months of online, or it was all here and there. And then we are back to our partnership this academic year. So almost 2 years now. And we have been using Exactpath and Edmentum products to help our students, to prepare them to do well in international assessment tools like MAP. So the previous curriculum coordinator was tasked to find a suitable and effective platform, online platform, to support our elementary students. And Edmentum and Exactpath was one of the best that we chose to implement. So we are at the start, and we're looking forward to using it in more effective ways.
Thanks, Abdurrahim, and thanks everyone. So one of the things that links these schools together, which we've already talked about already, is that they all use our online program, which is called Exactpath. And Exactpath will come up and has already come up in the discussion so far. But if you don't know what Exactpath is, it's a K-12 platform that starts off with either our own adaptive diagnostic assessment, or more pertinent to this conversation, we can actually upload your NWEA MAP scores. And then based on the results of the MAP assessment, Exactpath then provides a playlist of content to each and every student to work on skills in math, reading and English language arts that are specifically tailored to them. But what I wanted to start the discussion today with was by at the beginning of the story. So even before you choose that digital platform, and the first question I'll start with Nina, if that's okay. And then we'll go around the table. So Nina, when you first started looking for a new digital platform to integrate with MAP, what were you doing with that MAP data originally? And secondly to that, what were you trying to achieve when looking for a new digital program?
Okay, Gareth, I am so sorry, but I don't feel that I'm possibly the best person to answer that question. Okay. Because when I started my journey in an American curriculum school and working with MAP, it was also Edmentum had already been introduced. So I wasn't part of that, that choice. However, I am constantly looking for and reviewing and seeing whether the platform is giving me exactly what I need. And to date, I am incredibly happy with the choice that was made prior to me making the choice, because of the support that we get and also those links with MAP and the way that I can use it as an online platform. And at School of Modern Skills, when COVID hit, we were so incredibly lucky that we'd already embedded those platforms and got the children working on them. So I'm sorry, I haven't answered your question. I hope I've helped anybody who's listening to understand why we stick with Edmentum and Exactpath. And maybe I'll hand that over to somebody who actually was part of the choice prior to.
Okay. I'd be actually more than happy to chime in, because this is my 4th year using it, because originally when I started as an assistant principal in Al Ain, we were an American curriculum school. We were just looking for a platform to support us. And we tried so many different resources, and we got really lucky to come across Edmentum. So we had them come in a demo, and our big disconnect was we have these international and internal external assessments that are linked to American curriculum, but no specific tool that all encompasses everything we kind of need. Something that's individualized, as everyone talks about, a big part of this is that individualized journey for the child. So we'd find platforms that, okay, here's NGSS, maybe here's a little bit of English, here's math, but nothing that encompassed all of it that was directly aligned to the American curriculum that was individualized. So we actually piloted it in our school in Al Ain, and it was so successful. When I moved to Dubai, I made sure when I signed up with the company, I made them sign up for Exactpath, because I was like, we don't need to search. I already know something that works really, really well. And we've actually started, we're a brand new school this year, and we've got to start off on such a better foundation, because we had this program from the beginning, letting our data analysis drive the student progress forward individualized, rather than starting my last school when I started it. We kind of didn't have that program. So it's been really pivotal in establishing our campus.
Yeah, and just to take it a little bit further, we used it to take differentiation, or scaffolding as we call it, from theoretical to actual. The MAP data we had could tell us where students were in relation to grade level, so we could group them, but the teachers didn't know in a space of 40-minute or an 80-minute period how to actually address those gaps. And so Exactpath has helped us. And as I always say to the parents, it's 24 hours a day. It's on the holidays. The kids can work on it whenever they want. We also plan it into our lessons when we do station learning and those kind of things. So it's really helped us, give us something practical, and the teachers don't have to plan it because it automatically feeds into the student's learning path. So it's been very beneficial.
For us at KAS, Kuwait American School, we are a living values-based school. And we do believe in all the learning differences, and differentiation is one of the main things that we look at. So for that reason, we wanted to find a suitable platform on the three bases: easy to track and analyze to get data, and as well something to support and assist our learners to do better in the international or like MAP testing, because MAP it assesses but it does not prepare the student in advance. Plus culturally related, I mean, if we take the culture of the region, the student, it's very difficult to convince them to, for example, take, for example, an online assessment seriously without knowing that it is graded. So always they're looking at grades. So MAP testing is for them it is not important because it does not affect our report cards. So we wanted to not just to throw the MAP testing as once in a quarter, just do it and that's it. But if they are doing it in a way that in every single day they do the same, they do answer the same questions, same tasks. So it is something that as a continuous activity they do. So when they reach MAP, it is something that they do on a daily basis. So it is kind of creating a culture in the students. So it is not just something that we throw or a burden for them. So they know, oh, we do it every single day in the classroom, and the teachers, it's a routine. So the MAP, since we started using Exactpath, the student now, they take it seriously in a way that they do all their best in order to score high in the MAP testing results. So it is something that, and plus something different that we did not find in our previous platform we use is the easy access and the communication with the people behind the screen from Exactpath, because sometimes you find a wonderful platform, but it is just they throw you the platform, you swim or you die. So, but there's a continuous communication with the people from the other side. They provide us with all the details and with all the report and analysis. And this really helps the leaders in any school to get the best of the Exactpath.
Great, thanks, Edgerine. And yeah, you're completely right. There's sort of two things here. There's you want to make sure the students use it day in, day out, but also the teachers need to get familiar with it and have that training in place to make sure that the students can use it day in and day out. And on that, I suppose there's two parts to this really. In terms of, can someone talk us through any tactics or programs that you can put in place to ensure that Exactpath has been successfully embedded into day-to-day practices? And that can be with students or teachers. And has anyone faced challenges along the way with that? I don't know if anyone wants to kick off with that one.
I don't mind kicking off with that one.
Yeah.
One of the things for us with Exactpath was, first of all, Rome isn't built in a day, so you can't just introduce a platform and expect it to instantly have an impact. But what we had as an issue was we didn't have anybody who was monitoring either teacher use or student use. And my advice to anybody would be look at your teacher activity first, because if the teachers aren't engaging with it, then there's no hope for the students engaging with it. And one of the reports that we used was the teacher activity report. I don't know if Gareth's able to share something that will show it to you. So we started by looking at that, and then we started contacting the teachers who weren't using it and trying to establish, why aren't you using it? What is it? Is it a training issue? Can we support you with it? Then we started building it into our heads of department so that they would start monitoring it to take the pressure off us. Just to give you a context, we're at a school of close to 2,000 students, 1,750 students. So over 130 teachers. So it's quite difficult to manage all from the top. It's got to be embedded throughout the system. So by using the teacher data, we were then able to start introducing it as part of performance related observations. Heads of department would start looking at it. And then as we moved through the years, we could then compare the classes where the teacher engagement is high, the student engagement is high, and start looking at the impact on the MAP results as well. So having this administrator dashboard really was particularly useful as a starting point for us.
That's really good. Lee, I know that you actually put in some, you actually started to use Exactpath and put a grade to it. Is that right? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, we average it into their final grade, and we reward them with time spent, reward them with challenges attempted and progress made. So through the administrator's dashboard, the teachers are checking every day to see how much time the students, there's two things you're going to see in the dashboard. One is how much time have they logged in, and one, how much activity have they actually done during that time. So they can't just log in and walk away from it. The students actually have to be active during that time. It does allow them for think time, so you can't expect them to, pick up things right away. But it also tells you where they're struggling with standards, where they need help, which challenges they have failed and need maybe some extra instruction on. It's been very helpful for us, not only from the administrator kind of back office sense, but our teachers are also on it all the time. And as Nina said, the excitement will wear off after a few months. You have to stay on it. You have to stay on it. Don't buy this just to have it, buy it to use it, but have a plan when you implement it. We didn't figure out the assessment piece until about a year in, because we had seen the engagement drop off. And so we had to do some thinking and some kind of creative engagement. We did trophies, we did assemblies, we did medals, we did all kinds of things. And once we introduced it to the parents and explained to them that this is what's going to help them either enrich if they're above or support if they're below grade level, then they started to understand why this is necessary. And to speak to Abdurrahim's point about MAP before, obviously we don't grade for MAP, but this has helped us increase our MAP scores because the students are accustomed to a portal style kind of challenge engaging piece in school.
Yeah, and I think from both what you're saying in terms of it's not a silver bullet straight away that you're just going to see that great usage. It takes a lot of work. It takes staying on top of it, I think, as well. And then obviously in the last 2 years, a lot of things have changed. So blended learning has come to the forefront over the last 2 years as well. And just again, staying on top of things has even been a more challenge when you've got all these other adaptations to make as well. Anybody, maybe Sarah, could you talk us through what your school's approach has been to teaching and learning online over the last couple of years, and then that blended learning in the classroom?
Yeah, I can speak on our campus. So for our campus, luckily with the Dubai provisions and KHDA, we don't have too many kids having to stay home. It's only close contact, but it's been so pivotal in blended learning, because what it does is we do set provisions where students are zoomed in and they get to practice the lessons, but Exactpath is their level. It's their differentiated learning journey. So it's a really, really good tool at home, because parents in this era, blessed, have been through so much with having to support at home, and Exactpath is so independent for students. It takes and alleviates that pressure that parents often find on themselves, having to teach the lessons, having to do this, but the step process that you go through to go through a lesson for Exactpath makes them very independent at home. So it's been really pivotal in blended learning. We make sure as soon as a child gets shifted off, they get their blended learning schedule, and immediately the teacher reaches out to them for Exactpath usage, getting on the learning journey, also doing activities that are catered toward whatever curriculum they're covering at the time. So it's really, really helpful, because with the COVID situation, tomorrow we could all go back and shift. Everyone has to go back. It happens so quickly. Exactpath helps us to stay consistent No matter we're blended, we're online, we're DL, it's that one consistency in the kiddo's life, unfortunately, through these times, and it's really helped.
And how about you, Abderrahim? Do you have, what's the experience been like for your school in the last couple of years with blended learning?
For blended learning, the same case in Kuwait, but probably the situation in Kuwait was a bit severe than in the other parts of the region. So we went completely online. So no blended learning, completely online for about 18 months. So, and it was very difficult and we are somehow, not 100%, but somehow a coursebook-based school. And for elementary and for middle and high school, it is more thematic. So it was a bit difficult to realize the standards through online. But what we kept is like these kind of platforms, as Sarah mentioned, is the consistency. Even though you may lack some skills in the teaching online, but still these online platforms do provide some consistency in terms of the standards and the skills that the student can cover independently. So, and only, as I told you, we used Exactpath only the first term before the COVID hit, and that was just right in the beginning, so the teachers are still getting familiar with it. And then during the online, it was very difficult and the age of uncertainty, because a lot of things happened during online. So what we did is we tried to adapt our curriculum to the major skills only, in order to not adding more stress, because neither parents nor schools know what comes tomorrow. We were literally teaching day per day, so waiting for the ministry's decrease every single day on what comes next. Only this year, so we tried now to look at semester one with the Edmentum, where we had that report meeting with one of your colleagues. So starting from now, we'll be looking at comparing the results and to see to what extent it affected. And unfortunately, we don't have MAP this year as well, because we postponed for next year. So then, and due to the COVID thing, so we cannot know to what extent it helped us in MAP till the next academic year. But everything is, we started recording everything now. Retrieving reports and everything, getting everything ready for next year when we'll have our first session, autumn session of MAP.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot to go through, and I suppose you're halfway through that process of understanding what effect that's had. Not only, I mean, I'm sure you see the effect it's had on the students now, but in terms of their academics, you're sort of halfway through that process, I suppose. I mean, in terms of everyone else, I know it's a different situation, but there's a lot of talk about widening of skills gaps. And Lee, I know you talked about this a bit yesterday, but there's been a range of challenges that have arisen. One of those has been the widening of skills gaps. Have any of you found that to be the case or not? And what's your experience of this been? And how have you met that challenge so far?
Well, since you brought it up, Gareth, we just finished our second round of math testing for this year. We'll do 3 tests, and we did not see a skills gap as a result of blended learning or COVID or online learning. Socially, we have, I think everybody has. But as far as our language and our reading and our math, we have not seen that. As Sarah said, similar to Sarah's situation, we were all digital prior to the pandemic. So our students were comfortable with this format. When we first started the pandemic, the request from authorities was not to do too much screen time, to back off. So we upped our Exactpath usage in order to kind of supplement the time the students would have with reading and language and math with their teachers. And like I said, as it's turned out over a year and a half now, we didn't see the skills gap. But this also speaks to the idea of the students have to get accustomed to it. They have to know the kind of ebb and flow of the program, and so do the teachers. You know, it's very important to kind of see the patterns through the dashboards. Everybody gets a dashboard, teacher or administrator. And I was just looking today at what our usage looks like time-wise, and that's an important thing. to keep them on. You also have to monitor. When we went to the pandemic, suddenly our first and second graders were zooming through curriculum. I mean, I don't know. And what we determined was that the parents were doing it for them. And it becomes so obvious when there's hitting all these progress checks and covering them in a matter of weeks. And like, how could a first grader know that? So that's something else you kind of have to be aware of with the program. It's possible that they might be getting assistance at home, but I think we've all faced that in whatever format we're working in right now.
Yeah, I've seen some nodding heads between Nina and Sarah there. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, we had a similar issue, especially when you go to the provision where it's mostly distance learning, where parents are supporting a little bit too much, but it's actually funny for us. As soon as that happened, I'll get a complaint that it's too hard. And then I'll say, because Exactpath is individualized to your level. So did they do it like maybe by themselves? Did you support? Well, I supported. And then we have that conversation with the parent. And I think once that happens, they realize I've helped too much. My child's like 2 grade levels above now. And it's nice because in the system, the teacher can go reset. And because it's important to do it in class, because if you try to do it all in class or all at home, it helps doing both. For example, a teacher realized a student was going way too far ahead, was getting too much help at home. In class, it was immediately recognized because we do stations. And in the station, the child was way higher than their attainment. So the teacher was able to assess it, reset them in the system, and get them back on the right path with the right checkpoints. But it is important, like Lee was saying, to monitor the usage. And also in the classroom, the teachers have to really understand the platform, the usage, and where the children are at. And the students will have to also understand. If I don't understand something, reaching out to the teacher. So it's kind of the whole village kind of making it work.
It was really interesting looking at MAP scores and looking at Edmentum usage and things like that after we'd gone through distance learning and having the children back in school. And, you know, when I was preparing for this, I started looking at what exactly is a skills gap? How do we define what the skills gap is? Because as Lee said, he didn't really notice a skills gap. And I don't think we really did either from an academic point of view. Our growth is steadily increasing. So that's a real positive thing. But then I started thinking about it as a gap for the teachers, because our differentiation, our difference between students who are really struggling and students who are experiencing extreme success has widened. And a lot of that, I think, is to do with the level of support they've had at home, access to devices, you know, all of those complications. So from my point of view, when I started thinking about it in a different way, I was trying to think of how Edmentum is able to support my teachers in addressing differentiation, and that's where the learning path is really, really useful. And as Sarah mentioned, sometimes the learning path is way too high because they have had assistance. And that's been a sort of challenge, trying to readjust that and get that settled back down. But I'm really confident that once we get that settled back into place, then, you know, we'll be using the platform really efficiently again.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you say when you talk about skills gaps. It's almost simplifying it a bit too much. It's because there's also a social emotional learning side, you know, this whole as you say, backpack of things that a student has gone through the last 2 years, where English, maths and science might not be the one thing that to focus on. But and then thinking about Exactpath, it's part of your day-to-day instruction, or it can be, and that can really help, but coupled with everything else you've got going on. I mean, what has the impact been of using Exactpath then on your teachers and students? Have you seen that change since you've been using it? What's that been like? Start with Sarah.
Sure, I can speak on, because I've established a school this year, and kind of from that retrospect, starting from the beginning of the school year, new teachers coming into a new school is really, really helpful to have a platform from the beginning. And so we saw the impact with the fact we saw a lot of teachers actually not coming from the American curriculum. So while we're doing, breaking down of standards and all that fun stuff, we actually saw Exactpath really help teachers understanding the curriculum a little more. For example, we do map prep. And so with map prep, every lesson has a map prep starter, and they go to Exactpath. That map prep questioning they do in whole group, they do think alouds, because it's the approach to the question, like reading map style questions, that gets tricky. And that's why Exactpath is so supportive. So it's been really, really helpful establishing a school, because they have a tool they can go to for supporting of the standards, supporting the kids' individualized learning. We use it a lot for grouping. So at the beginning, when everyone was on different pages and differentiation, we were able to go on there once the map was inputted, go into groupings and see how to group students, how does the learning continuum, how does that tie to Exactpath, and how you can support and assign. So just on the establishing side of a school is really helpful to have at the beginning. And we've seen the impact, because I've established another school, and having this at the start, teachers have a better understanding of the standards, I feel, with American curriculum, because Exactpath has kind of helped them and drive that kind of forward. That's just my impact.
So does anyone else have anything to say on that point?
Yeah, that's exactly where I would have started with it too. We don't have a fancy curriculum mapping portal or engine or any of that kind of stuff. So you can use, as we have, the Edmentum software to do your curriculum maps. And at the same time, because of the way that the colors, and it's kind of like a heat map when you look at class by class. So as a planner, you can then determine, what maybe you don't need to cover, what you can. It really helps out with the planning. There's automatic grouping on it as well. So as an administrator, I can go to my teacher and say, I don't know why you're not differentiating in this lesson. It's obvious that these standards are, these kids are struggling on these standards. And all of this becomes visual to you as you look through, the dashboards. It's been very helpful for us to write our curriculum map, to revise it from year to year, and also to see where it is. And the skills gaps that we see in Edmentum, or the kind of the struggling skills, we also see in MAP. So now we know live in the classroom, we can address those. So it's more kind of research and reason behind fortifying certain lessons, and kind of dumping the favorites of the old dinosaur themes or whatever. This is where we can look at it and say, okay, your students need to work on this, look at this. And so it's been very good evidence for that.
And just to add on to that, sorry, Nina,
No,
something that's helped with the teacher kind of aspect as well is me having teachers from all over coming in new, maps new, Exactpath new, everything's so new. But because map ties hand in hand with Exactpath, they almost had a better understanding of map, because Exactpath helped them understand it. So it was nice having that cohesiveness, and the teachers really took well to taking both of them kind of on board.
So I wanted to mirror all of those things, and I think one of the impacts is on the teacher's ability to understand the curriculum. And in international schools, teachers are transient. We don't, there is a high sort of turnover. But one of the other things when we started working with Edmentum, with Exactpath and Study Island, was we noticed a massive growth in usage. So what we then did was we started asking the children, what do you like about Exactpath? What do you like about Edmentum? And one of the impacts for us was the sort of growth mindset for the students. And they started to recognize that they're all different. They're all on a different learning journey. And they were able, we did little interviews with them, and they were able to verbalize their learning, and also to say, I really like it, because if I don't get it the first time, it's okay. I can go back, I can do it again, I can review it. And I noticed in one of the questions, somebody was asking about usage. So for us, usage was our first point, because if they're not using it, you can't do anything else with it. But then once you've got your usage established, then you can get the children to start talking about their passing marks, their attainment, their growth, how quickly they're managing things. And by talking to the students in the school directly and asking them those questions, a lot of that came straight from their own mouths. So it was really great to see that children are beginning to understand it's okay not to have a MAP score of 200. It's okay because I know that I'm making progress and I can see it myself.
And it makes me think of an example. I think I've spoken a lot to Lee in the past. One of the examples he used was about a student who through using Exactpath, they could see growth compared to the other students. So it wasn't the fact that they weren't putting the hand up all the time in class. It was the fact that I've done this skill and I've mastered this skill. And it's their own growth, and they got confidence from that. I'm probably telling it much worse than Lee would probably tell it, but yeah, when you actually do it with students and have that interaction, that's where you see the growth. Sorry, Abderrahim, you can say something.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to probably the people, those who are not using MAP. So how can they use Exactpath without linking it to MAP testing? Still, you have a very nice diagnostic assessment portal, which is really for those who are not using MAP. They can still request the diagnostic assessment portal. It will give you almost somehow an assessment and diagnoses the skills of the learners and build up the student skills up in that diagnostic test. So this is what we did this year because we didn't have MAP, though we are using MAP every single year. But since we did not use MAP this year, we still kept the diagnostic assessment portal to give us somehow an idea of where our kids standing. So again, for those who are not using MAP, not necessary that you have to have MAP in order to have Exactpath. You still can use Exactpath as a complete product where you can use their own Exactpath diagnostic assessment portal. Will give you somehow the same result of what MAP testing. I'm not saying it is a substitution, but it can be used as an alternative. In our case, for example, due to COVID, we could not do the MAP testing. So this is a plus. So taking MAP aside, it is not incomplete, though it is complete with the diagnostic assessment portal.
Thanks, Abderrahim. Yeah, and you can use them both as well. So you could have, let's say you don't use MAP for your grade 2, for example, you could use it for that as well. We've had a question come in from the audience. Can I get some kind of advice about effective monitoring and accountability systems for student Exactpath? I thought it was a really interesting question. I don't know if anyone has any advice for that. So advice about effective monitoring and accountability systems, or what you've done in the past for that.
Well, as I spoke earlier, we have worked it into our assessment policy at we use it grades 1 through 9. So 15% of every student's grade is directly linked to their Exactpath in English, and in math is directly linked to their Exactpath usage. Now, this also means that the teachers have to be monitoring it because they're the ones giving the grades. So as we set up the kind of school-wide grade books and we have the Exactpath columns there, then we can see if teachers are just throwing in, the same number on everybody, then we can pursue that. And, the problem there, of course, is it's after the fact. You have to wonder, why are all these kids getting the exact same thing? The exact same number. When I open the dashboard, I'm not seeing the same, it doesn't reflect the same numbers. So there's accountability built into that right away. And again, it took us about 1.5 years to figure out that was the way to go. The other way is have your middle leaders checking in on their teachers, making sure that they're using it. They can write it into lesson plans, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it. So you've got to make sure that if they're writing into lesson plans that you're seeing it. Sarah mentioned stations. We have Chromebooks, so we may have one group doing Chromebook, one group doing paper, one with the teacher, and then after sanitization, moving it around, those kind of things. So the accountability is something you do have to stay active with, but you can monitor it. from your desk, if you so wish, by just looking at your administrator's dashboard, looking at student usage for a class, looking at the teacher, and seeing what kind of progress is being made. It's all available to you. It takes some time and it takes some training, which Gareth and his team are really good with, but make sure that, you've got a routine of checking these things. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of disappear.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think that's the biggest thing, and that kind of ties in with the buy-in and the accountability, is when we started, if it's like Lee said, having middle leaders and teachers and different layers monitoring. And so we actually ended up doing is we did that and paralleled it with the positive reinforcement of certificates, because we are elementary, we're K-5, and we use it 1-5, but getting them to buy in. So we have ongoing competitions. Every Friday morning, I announce the top winner in the school for each grade, for each class. I get them to compete. So I said, 2D, but 2C, you were so close. And the teacher brings it up every morning. They're like, Salama had 10 hours this week. Who can beat Salama? So it's that class accountability. So if they see Sultan's on and Sultan has 0 hours, they say, come on, Sultan, if you just do 2 hours next week, and trying to get the kids kind of excited. I found keeping that momentum every single week. I blast it on my seesaw and I say, wow, Alia was a top winner in the school. They get certificates. So it's the students and it's all the class accountability. I've actually found the class when I've got obnoxious crowns that go around the borders of the classroom that's the winner and hype them up, they get extra play time, and the kids will hold the teachers accountable, and the teachers will literally pull it up and see who's done it. And it's just has many incentives as you can, and revisiting, because kind of like Lee said, it dies down. This becomes old, and then you have to go back to the teachers and say, okay, what's working? What do the kiddos want? Tie it to something, incentivize it. We have house systems too. So house systems, the house with the most Exactpath usage, as many different, but it's the buy-in and getting the kids excited, the teachers excited, all that fun stuff.
That was a lesson we learned early on when we started doing the Exactpath challenge, the winter challenges. And initially we had set it as the highest score. And what we then realized is you get one kid in a class who's like totally into it and he carries the rest of them. And then there's some of them doing absolutely nothing. So then we changed the rules slightly and we changed it to the whole class so that it couldn't just be one child. It had to be everybody in the class had attained a level, and it was the class with the most people. So that was a really interesting learning journey for us as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I think, and we've had someone in the chat say something similar to Sarah in terms of being trophies and actually creating that excitement. So hopefully that's answered your question. So a couple of things. One, I wanted to maybe first talk about how the implementation of the program has gone, because I know even before this started, Nina was singing Natasha's praises, and I'm sure she'd want to say hello to Natasha. So what has it been like to implement Edmentum into the school? What has the training been like? Does anyone want to talk about that?
I'm always happy to praise Natasha. I can't praise her enough. Implementing Edmentum, we had a few hurdles to start off with. We were paying for a system that we weren't using as effectively as we could. And then we got in touch with Natasha and she really just talked us through lots of ideas. She was able to say to us, oh, I've been to another school and this is what they're doing. Why don't you try this? She will do teacher training for us, but obviously via Zoom. But even halfway through the year, I had a bit of a recruitment issue this year. Possibly other people had similar challenges. So I had some staff that came later on in the year, so they'd missed all that start of year buzz. And Natasha really kindly came and did a special Zoom session with my new team. And it just makes such a difference. The reports that she sends, you get the mid-year report, and then you can talk through it. And if you're not using the system daily, which maybe some of your senior leadership team aren't using it as regularly as the teachers, Natasha can really help you understand, well, that's actually what this is telling you. Or here are a few questions that you might want to go and ask in order to find out, you know, why this weird piece of data is showing. Or, you know, congratulations, this is fantastic. This is, you know, amazing growth. Let's celebrate it. You know, let me share that with the teachers. And when you've got somebody from an external company who gives the teachers that sort of boost and that congratulations, it means a lot more than the internal people, because we're with them all the time. So, you know, I really cannot praise Natasha enough.
Yeah, I wanted to just mention that, just because if there's anyone listening who uses Exactpath and wants to maybe get a bit more out of it, we can get in touch with us and we can really work on that and see if there's anything we can help with and provide that advice. And hopefully this session's been helping with that as well. But I wanted to ask one last question to all of you, almost like a summary. I know we've gone through some of this already, but what would you say are the most important elements to consider when implementing a new digital program like Exactpath? Let's start with Abderrahim.
Thank you. First of all, I can't agree more with what Nina mentioned about the support. As I mentioned earlier as well, that, for example, Exactpath is something not new to my teachers, but new to me as well. And the support we got from Exactpath is really amazing, and the way how they train the teachers, the continuous support and providing us with the report, explaining to us what are the different options we have and all the stuff is really appreciated. Now, back to your question on what basis we choose, we decide whether it is an effective platform or not. I personally look at three main areas. So the first area is the content of the platform, to what extent it is, it responds to our schools, our learners' needs. This is number one. The accessibility, because when we design an online platform, we don't take into consideration that only teachers who are expert, they can understand the language of the platform, but we take into consideration that parents as well look at it, kids look at it. So how it is designed to be friendly, used by not only by teachers, but even by administrators, by leaders, by students, by parents. So it is easy to access, easy to find what we look at. So this is the second part of the thing we look at. The third part is what kind of a support we get from this platform, online support or physical support, what kind of trainings, what kind of report they provide us. So on this basis, the previous curriculum coordinator, I went through the reports when the report was sent to the leaders to take a decision to go for Exactpath or not. And I found exactly these three elements. The previous curriculum coordinator mentioned that these are on the basis of these things. So the content teamed up with MAP, and the way how it is designed, and the support we get from the Exactpath. On this basis, we just say really Exactpath is the right product for us and for our school.
Are you talking to me? Your mic was off. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Let's go with you.
It's okay. I can read lips, Gareth. No problem. So I would say, if you're going to use it with MAP, here's the rationale that hooked our parents in. The reality of the MAP score of your child's number is 2 levels below or 1 level below, okay? I now have a tool that can change that. I can help that student. And for the students who are older, who understand what 2 grade levels below means, you can say to the student, we now have a tool that can help you close that gap and get you moving forward. Okay, that has been the most valuable thing. Our MAP scores are part of our language and part of our discussion. And in the Middle East here, marks and numbers are everything. Okay, and you have to be able to have a real conversation with your parents and with your teachers that, look, the external marks from MAP are not telling us the same thing your internal marks are, but we can fix that once we start using Exactpath with some, fidelity. So, and that is exactly what we've seen in the 3.5 years that we've been using it. Our internal marks have become much more honest because we see how the kids are working in the classroom, their performance-based tests and their Exactpath and their MAP scores have been going up, and now our gaps are closing. The most important thing is buy-in from your teachers. You have to have your teachers engaged. And as Nina talked about, and Abdurrahim, the implementation specialist will help you. You're going to get emails that you don't expect that say, congratulations, you've done these kind of numbers. These trophies are going out. Here's some certificates if you want to use these, and use them. You know, as Sarah said, make the announcements, make it exciting. We had race bulletin boards for a while that the kids were following. All these kind of things are good. For the older students, they are aware enough to know what their MAP scores mean. You know, because at a certain age, they stop shouting it out after they finish the MAP test. And so that means that they don't want to discuss it or they can't wait to discuss it. Either way, Exactpath is going to help those kids who are above grade level continue further, and those who are below close their gap to grade level. And we have seen a 1.5 year growth about as an average across our school as a result of, you know, learning Exactpath outside and then having our curriculum experts inside the class. So that's what I would say.
Thanks, Lee. Sarah?
Yeah, I'll just add on, and you know, thinking kind of, if you're thinking about Exactpath with implementation, starting off with Exactpath, really thinking, as everyone said, when you first start, is the buy-in. How are you going to buy in the parents, the teachers, the students? Then from there, something that was helpful with us is we sat down with SLT, MLT, and we mapped out clear expectations. What do we want? Every school uses it in a different way. But if we're not all on the same page about how we want to use it, we're not going to get the product we want. So we talked about clear expectations. We brainstormed. MLT drove like, what do you guys want? What do we want out of this? Then from there, having a strategic action plan where the middle leaders are selling it, SLT selling it, and kind of getting everyone to buy in. My first time I implemented, we missed that strategic approach and buy-in, and it took a lot longer for teachers to get on board and for us to really see an outcome. But we started this school year with that. So with Exactpath, it was much better with that implementation. And then I will add on, as everyone else has said, I work with a lot of e-learning platforms, and I will say that Exactpath is the most supportive, and I could literally reach out at any time. I might have forgotten this, or hey, could I reach out? I actually need this for my teachers. And there's always an email willing to accommodate anything that you need for your chemists. I find that really helpful because we're all working in a very, very special field of education, and it's nice to have that extra support.
So I think everybody's pretty much covered all of the things that I would have said, but there is one thing, and it's that dirty word that I don't imagine anybody, and it's cost. Financial investment and value for money. And I think that is one of the biggest considerations when you're looking at doing something school-wide. And, you know, without going into the financials of anybody's company or business, value for money is key. And I would say that with Edmentum, Exactpath, Study Island, that value for money comes across with the growth that you see in your students and the impact it has on, you know, here in Dubai, we have to map test 3 times a year, the impact it has on that student growth, and also value for money, like everybody has said, with the level of support. And again, value for money from my perspective is that it links to the curriculum. And Sarah mentioned this earlier, where, you know, if you've got transient teachers, it really helps them because the standards are all embedded in the system. So there's lots of aspects that give it sort of value for money. It's no educational platform is perfect. It's not going to give you 100% every single thing that you want in life, but it certainly hits so many really strong points that I think value for money is something important to look at.
Thanks, Nina. Thanks, everyone. I'm just looking at the Q&A just to cover off a couple of things I can probably answer about what Exactpath supports. Does it support science? It's only math, language, math, ELA, and reading. There's a question come in about, are you using any other platforms, or is it a tool that is comprehensive and won't need any other tool like IXL. So does anyone use any other similar platforms alongside Exactpath, or do you find that Exactpath's enough? You shake your head, it's fine.
No, we entertained using IXL along with it, but it just turned out we needed something that taught content, not something that just quizzed kids about the information. And Exactpath presents the content, which is really helpful to us. So we did try to kind of integrate IXL with it, but it just wasn't something we look for. We do use them for diagnostics on occasion, but Exactpath it's not our whole resource for our curriculum. We have another resource as well, but it is the supplementary resource for scaffolding our lessons and individualizing our learning paths.
Excellent. And then there is a final question, but I think we can I can send some information across about what evidence there is that Exactpath is improving the MAP scores. But we've got some actual evidence base. Even Lee, I think, has got something we can send across too. So we'll definitely answer that separately. But I just want to, we're about at time now, but I just want to really thank Sarah, Nina, Abderrahim and Lee for a really good discussion. It's been really nice to learn more about how your schools are using Exactpath, and I hope that the attendees have all. If your school are looking for an online solution to achieve student growth, and we'd like to know more about Mentum and Exactpath, I've put the contact details up on. But for now, thanks again to all the attendees, and thanks everyone for your time as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.